Jaya Radha Krishna Giti. This is the next song. And as we continue to progress through the songs of the Vaishnavacharyas that were translated by His Grace Achyutananda Prabhu. And there's no author actually given for this song, which is unusual. Jaya Radha Madhava Radhe, Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe, Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe, Jaya Daiver Pranadana He, Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe, Jaya Radha Madana Gopa Radha Madana Gopa Radhe, Sita Natya Pranadana He, Jaya Radha Madana Gopa Radha Madana Gopa Radhe, Jaya Radha Govinda Radha Govinda Radhe, Rupa Goswami Pranadana He, Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Govinda Radhe, Jaya Radha Madana Mohan Radha Madana Mohan Radhe, Jaya Radha Madana Mohan Radha Madana Mohan Radhe, Sanatane Pranadana He, Sanatane Pranadana He, Jaya Radha Madana Mohan Radha Madana Mohan Radhe, Jaya Radha Gopinata Radha Gopinata Radhe, Jaya Radha Gopinata Radha Gopinata Radhe, Madhu Panditer Pranadana He, Madhu Panditer Pranadana He, Jaya Radha Gopinata Radha Gopinata Radhe, Jaya Radha Gopinata Radha Gopinata Radhe, Jaya Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Radhe, Jaya Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Radhe, Jiva Goswami Pranadana He, Jiva Goswami Pranadana He, Jaya Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Radhe, Jaya Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Radhe, Jaya Radha Marad Radha Ramana Radha Ramana Radhe, Jaya Radha Ramana Radha Ramana Radhe, Gopabhatter Pranadana He, Gopabhatter Pranadana He, Jaya Radha Ramana Radha Ramana Radhe, Jaya Radha Ramana Radha Ramana Radhe, Jaya Radha Vinoda Radha Vinoda Radhe, Jaya Radha Vinoda Radha Vinoda Radhe, Lokanatera Pranadana He, Lokanatera Pranadana He, Jaya Radha Vinoda Radha Vinoda Radhe, Jaya Radha Vinoda Gokulananda, Radha Gokulananda Radhe. Jaya Radha Gokulananda, Radha Gokulananda Radhe. Vishwanath Pranadana He, Vishwanath Pranadana He. Jaya Radha Gokulananda, Radha Gokulananda Radhe. Jaya Radha Gokulananda, Radha Gokulananda Radhe. Jaya Radha Giridhari, Radha Giridhari Radhe. Jaya Radha Giridhari, Radha Giridhari Radhe. Das Goswamir Pranadana He, Das Goswamir Pranadana He. Jaya Radha Giridhari, Radha Giridhari Radhe. Jaya Radha Giridhari, Radha Giridhari Radhe. Jaya Radha Shama Sundar, Radha Shama Sundar Radhe. Jaya Radha Shama Sundar, Radha Shama Sundar Radhe. Shamananda Pranadana He, Shamananda Pranadana He. Jaya Radha Shama Sundar, Radha Shama Sundar Radhe. Jaya Radha Shama Sundar, Radha Shama Sundar Radhe. Jaya Radha Banka Bihari, Radha Banka Bihari Radhe. Jaya Radha Banka Bihari, Radha Banka Bihari Radhe. Hari Dasir Pranadana He, Hari Dasir Pranadana He. Jaya Radha Banka Bihari, Radha Banka Bihari Radhe. Jaya Radha Banka Bihari, Radha Banka Bihari Radhe. Jaya Radha Kanta Radha Kanta Radhe. Jaya Radha Kanta Radha Kanta Radhe. Rakeshwara Pranadana He, Rakeshwara Pranadana He. Jaya Radha Kanta Radha Kanta Radhe. Jaya Radha Kanta Radha Kanta Radhe. Jaya Gandharvika Giridhari, Gandharvika Giridhari Radhe. Jaya Gandharvika Giridhari, Gandharvika Giridhari Radhe. Saraswatir Pranadana He, Saraswatir Pranadana He. Jaya Gandharvika Giridhari, Gandharvika Giridhari Radhe. Jaya Gandharvika Giridhari, Gandharvika Giridhari Radhe. That's the beginning to Jaya Radha Madhava, Radha Madhava Radhe. Jaya Radha Madana Gopal, Radha Madana Gopal Radhe. Jaya Radha Govinda, Radha Govinda Radhe. Jaya Radha Madana Mohan, Radha Madana Mohan Radhe. Jaya Radha Gopinatha, Radha Gopinatha Radhe. Jaya Radha Damodara, Radha Damodara Radhe. Jaya Radha Ramana, Radha Ramana Radhe. Jaya Radha Vinoda, Radha Vinoda Radhe. Jaya Radha Gokulananda, Radha Gokulananda Radhe. Jaya Radha Giridhari, Radha Giridhari Radhe. Jaya Radha Shama Sundar, Radha Shama Sundar Radhe. Jaya Radha Banka Bihari, Radha Banka Bihari Radhe. Jaya Radha Kanta, Radha Kanta Radhe. Jaya Gandharvika Giridhari, Gandharvika Giridhari Ra. So the official title of that is Jaya Radha Krishna Giti. And mysteriously, in the songbook, it said that there was no name given to the author. So I thought, well, let me go to KK Songs, which is where you're going to find every bhajan practically in the universe. And here again, it's anonymous. So it sounds like it's traditional, sung by Brijabasis. Not that I'm a Brijabasi, but fake it till you make it, right?
Well, it's lovely the way it goes through all
Hare
the
Krishna,
different
Nandapatni.
beauty.
And wow, look who's here. Shuddha Sindhu's come all the way from Malaysia.
Yay.
Phew, what's a long distance to come. I can't hear anybody. Is it because I'm muted? No, I'm not muted.
Hare Krishna. Morning.
And
Krishna.
okay, there you are. Hare Krishna. Welcome, Shuddha Sindhu.
Hare Krishna. Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning. Yeah, I'm here. And it's good afternoon for Nandapatni.
Well, it's kind of, afternoon.
Good afternoon. So, all right, we just finished. I was just thinking, as I was singing through this, I was thinking, wow, God, Krishna, does not give us a lack of variety in his many manifestations and his names. And when you sing this, you can get little flashes of being in Vrindavan and going on Parinam. It's kind of like a sonic parikram. Chanting all the names of these beautiful deities of Vrindavan Dham. So I don't know where Krishna Chandra went. He was just here. So I'll start, and then Nandapatni and Shuddha Sindhu, we can each read one. All glories to Radha and Madhava, the treasure of Jayadev Goswami's heart.
All glories to Radha and Madan Gopal, the treasure of Advaita Acharya's heart.
All glories to Radha and Govinda, the treasure of Rupa Goswami's heart.
All glories to Radha and Madana Mohan, the treasure of Sanatana Swami's heart.
All glories to Radha and Gopinath, the treasure of Madhu Pandit's heart.
All glories to Radha and Damodara, the treasure of Jiva Goswami's heart.
All glories to Radha Raman, the treasure of Gopal Bhatta Goswami's heart.
All glories to Radha Vinod, the treasure of Lokanath Goswami's heart.
All glories to Radha and Gokulananda, the treasure of Vishwanatha Chakravati Thakura's heart.
All glories to Radha and Giridhari, the treasure of Raghunath Das Goswami's heart.
All glories to Radha Shyamasundar, the treasure of Shyamananda Goswami's heart.
All glories to Radha and Banka Vihari, the treasure of Haridasa Swami's heart.
All glories to Radha Kanta, the treasure of Rakeshwara Pandit's heart.
All glories to Gandharvika Giridhari, the treasure of Sri Bhaktisiddhanta. That's right, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's heart.
So I have a question for you, Nandapatni.
Mm.
And that is, I know several of these deities. I've seen them in Sri Vrindavan Dham, but I'm not sure whether all of them are located there. For example, let's start with Radha and Madhava. Are they located in Vrindavan Dham?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I think Nrihari and Babatrini.
I was thinking exactly the same thing.
Because they've pilgrimaged so much,
Yeah, where's
Haven't they?
Nrihari and Babatrini when you need them?
So Radha Madhava I think of as our ISKCON deities in Mayapur.
Right.
They're Radha Madhava, aren't they?
But Bhaktivinoda Thakur's deity's name, I believe, was Radha Madhava. His personal deity.
Okay. Mm.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of research you could do on this
Yeah,
song.
you
Like
could.
is Madan Gopal and Advaita Acharya's deities, are they actually in Vrindavan? Did Advaita Acharya spend any time in Vrindavan? That I don't know.
I would think they're probably in Navadvip. Or,
Yay,
yeah.
Jivan Mukta Prabhu is here. Hari Krishna
Okay,
Prabhu.
okay, Hare Krishna.
Obeisances unto you.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hey, Jivan Mukta, you and I got to go to Vrindavan, Jagannath Puri, and Mayapur in this lifetime before it's over. Is that okay?
I've been there. You've been there.
No, but I never went with you though.
Why do you want to go with me? My God, I carry with me a cloud of darkness and ignorance.
Because I want to see all the ecstasy on your face as we go and rediscover all these amazing places.
Yeah.
Nanda Patni and I are discussing, because I'm just wondering the actual location of these deities. I would like to go and visit them all. And Sikarani has finally come back. Yay. Welcome.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Sikarani.
Krishna.
How is your leg? Has it healed?
It's healing. Yeah.
In the process of healing.
Yes.
Did you put some turmeric on it to bring the swelling down? Turmeric and with oil? You try that?
I don't think I tried that one.
Avoid all sugar, it increases inflammation and pain.
Yeah. I'm not taking sugar.
Okay, that's good. Sikarani had an accident, I think in New Mexico, was it? Or
Yeah.
you fell or you just twisted your ankle?
I fell one step down and then I twisted my ankle because I was in rush.
My mom used to say, haste makes waste.
My manager was on my head and he was asking me so many questions. It was a busy day.
Okay. Yeah, we're just going. I've gone to the Radha Govinda temple in Vrindavan. I think Jivan Mukta, you've been there, Prabhu?
Sorry, where?
Radha Govinda's temple in Vrindavan.
No.
Radha Govinda are in Jaipur.
Okay, so it's, what do they call it? Prati? There's a name for deity.
Yeah, it's kind of like not substitutes, not quite the right word, but yeah, there's a special,
Yes.
there's a special word.
Monitor deity, substitute deity.
Can't think what the word is.
No, but they were taken from Vrindavan because of the attacking Muslims.
Yeah. Did you listen to that series I sent you?
Not yet. No, I
Oh
want
my
to.
God. It's so wonderful. You have to listen to it.
Okay, yeah. For everybody's interest, Indra Swami is visiting Radha Govinda's temple, and he gets a special permission to go into, there's like a cell or a room under the
They're
temple.
underground caves under the temple.
And that's for the pujaris or anyone who wants to chant
No,
there?
they were, I mean, I'm not sure why they constructed the caves originally, but when the Muslims attacked the temples in Vrindavan, they were able to hide certain things there, although they had already removed Govindaji.
Okay.
The Rajasthani kings helped. It took 5 years of a sort of whole circuitous route. They actually buried the Govindaji in the Kund at Radha Kund under the water.
You mean but wait a minute, but Radha Govinda ended up in Rajasthan, but you're saying
Yeah, they did, but they first of all, they couldn't get out that quickly. It was a long, and that's the thing about that whole series that he does, which is 12 episodes long.
just on Radha Govinda's temple.
What?
12 series just on Radha Govinda's temple?
Yeah.
Wow.
It goes from the inception. It goes from when Rupa Goswami finds Govindaji, you know, how he's praying for his Ishtadev, and then he finds Govinda. And then there was this very famous devotee called Man Singh, who was, you know, in the kind of regal position in Rajasthan, and he became a great devotee of Govindaji, and he was the one that actually built the temple. Rupa Goswami didn't really want it originally. He was quite happy serving his deity under a tree, you know, but he conceded, and then they built the big temple. So not to digress too much, but the whole story is absolutely wonderful. It goes into enormous detail because they actually have all this information that they're kind of digging out of the Vrindavan Research Institute, where they're actually handling the handwritten manuscripts of Rupa Goswami. I mean, it's a pretty amazing project they're involved in.
Yeah, so could you please put that link in the comment section, Nandapatni, so that although the devotees can go and see that series if they want on Radha Govinda's history and temple? If you have time, could you?
Yeah. If I do, I have to leave to go to another screen. I'm a bit. If I jumped out of this.
I'm not sure how that.
Oh well, and anyway, let's not interrupt. I'll try and do it. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So we're just trying to trace down these deities. For example, as we sang through this song, we were wondering, well, where's Radha and Madhava found? Or are Bhakti Vinod Thakur's deities were called Radha Madhava, but I don't think they were Jayadev Goswami's deities. We know, you know, it's not the Radha Madhava in Mayapur. So where are Jayadev Goswami's Radha and Madhava deities found? Where is Madan Gopal found? Radha Madan Gopal, Advaita Acharya's deities. Are they in Navadvip or are they in Mayapur? No, nobody seems to know here, except Nirhari and Bavatrini, maybe more. Radha and Govinda, you were saying it's the replacement deities that are in Vrindavan. I was amazed when I went to Vrindavan and I saw the roof on the main floor of Radha Govinda's temple. There's a gigantic marble lotus flower that's built into the ceiling. And I don't know how they got it up there. It's just colossal. It's hard to understand. Madan Mohan, anyone's gone to Vrindavan, they'll usually see the Radha Madan Mohan temple. I tried to take a photo of them and the pujari raised a stick. He was going to beat me for taking a photo of the deities. Radha Gopinath are in Vrindavan, Madhu Pandit's deities, Radha Damodar. Are those the original Radha Damodar? Do you know, Nandapatni, that are in Vrindavan? I think they're the only ones that didn't go, right?
Yeah, I think they are. Or I think Radha Raman never left.
That's
I think
right.
a lot of them were hidden, even if they didn't leave Vrindavan. I think Madan Mohan actually did end up leaving. And of course, Govindaji never came back because he was so opulently taken care of in the palace.
Yes. And Radha Vinod, Lokanath Goswami's deity, I don't know where they are.
Well, originally
Radha Gokul and Nanda.
Yeah, yes? Sorry, he carried them round in a cloth bag.
Lokanath Goswami?
Yes, the Radha Vinod, Lokanath Swami was so devastated in being separated from Caitanya Mahaprabhu that Caitanya Mahaprabhu actually personally gifted him the Radha Vinod deity. And so he wouldn't feel separation. And he said, I am in this deity. He said this to Lokanath. And so Lokanath was so renounced, and he just would carry the deities around in this kind of cloth bag. And apparently the deity, because he was sent by Lord Chaitanya to, discover the holy places in Vrindavan. And so Radhavanod, deity, actually speaks to Lokanath Goswami and tells him kind of where to go and where the holy places are.
Wow.
Yeah. This is all explained in long lectures by Indrajumna Swami.
Oh, nice. And Radha Gokulananda, I don't know, they're Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's deities. Are they in Vrindavan? I don't know. I should know.
Yeah. He's much later. He's 17th century.
That's right. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Radha Giridhari, the treasurer of Raghunath Das Goswami. Where are they?
Probably at Radhakund, I would think, or Govardhan. I'm speculating, but he lived, he stayed for, I don't know, was it 30 years or something? Years and years and years at Radhakund.
Right.
Yeah.
Radha and Shamasundar, Shamananda Goswami's heart. Where are they? Now, Banka Bihari, that seems to be like one of the most popular temples in all of Vrindavan. It's super packed all the time. Wow. They're very popular. Haridas Swami's deities. And then Radhakanta, where are they? Treasurer of Rakeshwara Pandit. And does anyone know where Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's deities reside? Gandharvika Giridhari?
I think they're in Ekanath Chakra or Navadvip, but I don't know. If they're not there, because I've got such a terrible memory, because I only just heard this the other day in the Mat, then they're in Calcutta. So they're either of those places. Sorry, terrible memory. You listen to things and then you can't remember them.
I understand. We have to make sure we get at least 2 tablespoons of coconut oil every day. That's supposed to help the memory. And sniffing on rosemary essential oil is also very good for the memory.
Which oil?
And taking ginkgo biloba also opens up. Pardon?
Which oil?
Coconut.
Rosemary.
Gooseberry.
Rosemary.
Rosemary oil, sniffing that. Okay.
Yeah, it's supposed to many times expand the memory, according to people that are specialists in aromatherapy.
Oh.
Yeah, that might be good for you with all your responsibilities. Keep a little bottle of rosemary oil beside your desk. Take a few sniffs every now and then.
Yeah.
All right. So now that brings us to I think it's the second last chapter of the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. We started around a few weeks before Gaura Purnima, and now we're finally coming to the end of the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. And this is chapter 31, the Supreme Perfection. And let me just find the sharing the screen here. And okay. The Supreme Perfection, chapter 31. Whatever position one may have, if he is fully conversant with the science of Krishna consciousness, he can become a bona fide spiritual master, initiator, or teacher of the science. In other words, one can become a bona fide spiritual master if he has sufficient knowledge of the science of Krishna consciousness. The position does not depend on a particular position in society or on birth. This is a conclusion of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and it is in accordance with the Vedic injunctions. On the strength of this conclusion, Lord Chaitanya, previously known as Vishvambar, accepted a spiritual master, Ishvarapuri, who was a sannyasi. Similarly, Lord Nityananda Prabhu and Sri Advaita Acharya also accepted another sannyasi as their spiritual master, Madhavendra Puri. This Madhavendra Puri is known as Lakshmi Pati Tirtha. I didn't know. Two different names for the same.
Mm.
Madhavendra Puri is known as Lakshmi Pati Tirtha. Similarly, another great acharya, Sri Rasikananda, accepted Sri Shamananda as his spiritual master, although he was not born in a Brahmin family. So also Ganga Narayan Chakravarti accepted Narottam Das Thakur as spiritual master. In ancient days, there was even a hunter named Dharma who became a spiritual master for many people. I'm wondering if, no, I guess that's someone different than Ragari. There are clear instructions in Mahabharata and Srimad Bhagavatam 7:11-32, stating that a person, be he Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Shudra, should be accepted by his personal qualifications and not by birth. So you're next, Nandapatni, then Shuddha, Sindhu, then Shikarani, then Jivan Mukta. This way, you're appearing on my screen like that.
So one's position should be established by personal qualification and not by birth. For example, if a man is born in a Brahmin family, but his personal qualifications are those of a Sudra, he should be accepted as a Shudra. Similarly, if a person's born in a Shudra family, but has the qualifications of a Brahmin, he should be accepted as a Brahmin. All Shastric injunctions, as well as the versions of great sages and authorities, establish that a bona fide spiritual master is not necessarily a Brahmin. The only qualification is that he be conversant with the science of Krishna consciousness. That alone makes one perfectly eligible to become a spiritual master. This is the conclusion of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu in his discussions with Ramananda Rai. In the Hari Bhakti Vilas, it's stated that if one bona fide spiritual master is born in a Brahmana family and another who is also qualified is born in a Shudra family, one should accept the one who is born in a Brahmana family. This statement serves as a social compromise, but it has nothing to do with spiritual understanding. This injunction is only applicable for those who consider social status more important than spiritual status. It's not for people who are spiritually serious. A serious person would accept Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instruction that anyone, regardless of his position, conversant with Krishna science, must be accepted as a spiritual master. There are many injunctions in the Padma Purana which state that a highly elevated, spiritually advanced devotee of the Lord is always a first-class devotee and is therefore a spiritual master. But a highly elevated person born in a Brahmin family cannot be a spiritual master unless he is a devotee of the Lord. A person born in a Brahmin family may be conversant with all of the rituals of the Vedic scriptures, but if he's not a pure devotee, if he cannot be a spiritual master. In all the Shastras, the chief qualification of a bona fide spiritual master is that he be conversant in the science of Krishna consciousness. I cannot, kind of stress enough how many times Prabhupada goes over this in his books. And I think in some of his purports, he's quite sort of particular to the time, place, and circumstance in trying to appeal to the Indian population, put it that way, to be an acceptance of his Western disciples, even though they, of course, were not born in Brahmin families. So it's a theme that he repeats over and over and over. Yeah.
Jivan Mukta, you have some comment to add, Prabhu?
I was just reading in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Prabhupada says a lot about gurus. And he says how, anyone can become guru, and, how it's just a matter of just repeating the message. But Prabhupada, like, there's different types of gurus. And Prabhupada also states that when it comes to taking initiation and surrendering to a particular person, that one has to accept the guru from the highest position.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I've heard so many times how, this position.
Can't hear you, Jivan Mukta. Your voice cut out.
Position of guru.
Can't hear you.
Could you
Okay,
hear
it's
me now?
coming back. Now we can hear you. Go
Okay.
on.
Position of guru sometimes is made so cheap. Yet, Prabhupada has stated that when it comes time for you to take initiation and surrender your life to someone that is going to be representing Krishna to you, then that person should be from the highest platform of Krishna consciousness. And there is no settling for second best.
Mm-hmm.
And so, there's many places, just like we discussed before, that Prabhupada said even child could become guru. Even, what was that little girl? The first,
Saraswati, Shamasundar's daughter, Malati's daughter.
right. Prabhupada was saying how, she couldn't even be preaching, and she could, if she preaches, any preacher is guru.
Yeah, she was going up to people and she'd ask them, do you know who Krishna is? She was like 3 years old. And they'd say, no, who's Krishna? And she'd say, Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. And
Right.
Prabhupada said, that is perfect preaching.
That's right. So when it comes time, though, to surrender your life to someone, then you should be looking for that Paramahamsa. You should really be looking for that devotee, that pure devotee that is in constant contact with the Supreme Lord. And, it's not always like that. It's not always presented like that. And it's unfortunate, but regardless of where devotees are these days with respect to that, one thing we know is that Srila Prabhupada is, whether you see him as your guru, whether you see him as your param guru, everything rests upon his example. That's why he's the founder acharya. He established by his own actions and by his own behavior what we could recognize as a pure devotee on that highest level. And his instructions are there like a beacon of light, despite whatever may happen in our current circumstance with, whatever guru we have or who we've accepted to guide us. Srila Prabhupada's instructions, Srila Prabhupada's example is there. So it's just that's why it's important to read all of Prabhupada's books. It's really important to use common sense, to use the ability to think rationally, use our intelligence, and read Prabhupada's books, ask questions, and then we can come to the right conclusion. Because all of these things have to be somehow,
Reconciled or?
Reconciled, so when Prabhupada says that we have to take initiation from that person who is on that highest level of Krishna consciousness, that has to be reconciled with Saraswati could become guru. Do you know what I mean? We have to reconcile that from a little baby becoming guru and taking, and taking initiation from the Paramahamsa. That has to be reconciled. And it's not very difficult, actually. It really isn't very difficult. It's difficult when we try to misconstrue and we try to twist meanings that aren't obvious, just like when Lord Caitanya was speaking to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. He said he couldn't understand what Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was saying, what his explanations of the Vedanta Sutra was, because it was so convoluted. It was so complex because they're trying to wring out some wacky, meaning out of something which Lord Caitanya said is self-evident. Just accept what it says. Anyway, I just felt that it's, that's important because, Prabhupada in that section we were reading was mentioning about, the qualification of a guru. And, there's many, many types of gurus. Guru means teacher. Guru means heavy, but guru means teacher. I mean, my daughter, when she took dance lessons, her teacher was called her guru, right? So many different types of gurus.
One thought, thank you. One thought that came to me as you were speaking is how over the years I've met devotees stating, using the point you're making, which is a point from Prabhupada's Nectar of Instruction, that one should ideally not settle for anything less than an Uttama Adhikari as their guru, a devotee on the topmost platform, who's completely free from the propensity to criticize others, who's seeing everybody as serving Krishna much better than him, and so many other amazing qualities found in the Mahabhagavat. And they would take that argument and say, since ISKCON's gurus are, Madhyam Adhikari at best, we need to look at the Gaudiya Math, because there you're going to find gurus that have been practicing for, doing, 50 Vrajmandala parikrams and reading the Jaiva Dharma 100 times. And I'm just saying there's different ways. I recently learned this term, hermeneutics. I'm still not that familiar with it, but hermeneutics is the process of interpreting scripture. So for some people, interpreting, one should not settle for anything less than a Mahabhagavat is, well, as far as I know, there's no Mahabhagavats in ISKCON that's going to pull my ear right at this very moment. So why should I settle for, Prabhupada's disciples who, not too long ago were eating meat and taking drugs, etc. Let me go to a pure Vaishnava who's born in a pure family. Anyway, you know the argument.
And what's wrong with that?
I'm not saying anything's wrong.
I mean, if someone wants to do that, I mean, it's not as if the institution is going to bring you back home, back to Godhead. It's an individual connection with that pure soul, that pure devotee that is going to help you in your Krishna consciousness. So, the Shastra's there, you can't deny that. And, what ISKCON did with respect to, this whole guru situation, it's still very controversial. But at the same time, it's like I was saying, you have to read the Shastra, you have to hear what it's saying, what Shastra's saying, and then you have to apply it, and don't get caught up in politics. I mean, it's just like everything in this world, like you've got to use your intelligence. The intelligence is there for a reason. The intelligence accepts what's favorable for Krishna and rejects, right, what's unfavorable. So that's how it's supposed to be used. So we have to use our intelligence, praying always to Krishna in our heart to guide us to make the right decision. But yeah, there's things that are always going to be controversial. There's always going to be someone with a different opinion in everything. in anything in life, there's always going to be two sides. And so it's up to us to kind of use your intelligence and just try to make the best decision and surrender to Krishna to help us in that. With that.
I was hearing an interview with Namaras Prabhu today and Deva Madhava, who's head of a very a wonderful temple in Ypsilanti, Michigan, which he calls the Harmony Collective. Doesn't call it the Hare Krishna Temple, doesn't call it ISKCON, calls it the Harmony Collective. And he's attracting a lot of really intelligent young men and women from the University of Michigan. Now they've bought land and they're developing a farm. They started a Govinda's restaurant. It seems one of the up and up temples in America, in North America these days. And he was saying that he had 14 devotees that wanted to get initiated, and they took the official ISKCON disciples course. I've never seen it, but there's an official course. I don't know if it was Anutama Prabhu that made it or who made it. And he said, after reading the course, which Deva Madhava Prabhu described kind of as a contract that you're making with ISKCON, he said four of the people dropped out. They didn't want to take initiation after they read the rules, because one of the rules was you can't have an initiating guru outside of ISKCON. It has to be within ISKCON. Otherwise, you can't be in ISKCON. So who was it that was saying to me recently that we're meant to be disciples of our guru, not disciples of an institution? Yeah. So that's just another point I thought I'd throw out there. Does anyone else have any thoughts? Or
I have a question. I was wondering, Jivan Mukta, if there's a specific place, I'm assuming there is, that where Prabhupada says that you should only take initiation from the Uttama Adhikari.
Yes, actually, if you give me a minute, I'll find it here in Caitanya Charitamrita.
But it's also the Nectar of Instruction, where Prabhupada says one can take initiation from a Madhyam or a Kanishta Adhikari, but one will not be able to make further advancement beyond what that guru is giving. But then I think the argument to respond to that is, well, then that's why we have Prabhupada's books, because whatever may be lacking in that guru, Prabhupada's giving the highest understanding. Jivan Mukta, did you find the quote you're looking for?
Just looking here.
Okay. And also to follow up on your point here, Gaura, is that one has to, in a mood of optimism and discernment, if one is initiated by a Madhyam Adhikari, of which there are probably many in our movement, one has to assume that they, through their purity and determination, will eventually become Uttama Adhikari. So it seems like there's no particular fault in pursuing that particular path or direction. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, here it is.
Yes,
can I read it?
Yes, please.
Okay, so this is Lord Caitanya speaking to Sanatana Goswami. This is chapter 24, text 330, explanations of the Atmarama verse. So Lord Caitanya says to Sanatana, in your book, there should be the characteristics of the bona fide guru and the bona fide disciple. Then, before accepting a spiritual master, one can be assured of the spiritual master's position. Similarly, the spiritual master can also be assured of the disciple's position. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, should be described as the worshipable object, and you should consider the Bija mantra for the worship of Krishna, Rama, or any other expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. In the Padma Purana, the characteristics of the Guru, the bona fide spiritual master, have been described. And then there's a couple of shlokas here. I won't read them.
Okay.
The guru must be situated on the topmost platform of devotional service. There are 3 classes of devotee, and the guru must be accepted from the topmost class. The first class devotee is the spiritual master for all kinds of people. It is said, Guru Nanam. The word Nanam means of all human beings. The guru is not limited to a particular group. It is stated in Upadeshamrita of Sri Goswami that a guru is a Goswami, a controller of the senses and the mind. Such a guru.
Excuse me for interrupting you for a second, Prabhu. I'm sorry. I just didn't want to skip this over. It's interesting. What do you think Prabhupada's meaning when he says a guru does not belong to a particular group? Could he be saying that the guru isn't just an ISKCON? Wow, what's your understanding?
But it's just like what we were just reading now, that the guru could be from a Shudra, he could
Okay,
Haridas,
okay.
He could be from any
Different
Varna
stuff.
or ashram. It doesn't
Right.
matter.
Right.
But the guru has to be from the first class devotee is the spirit. Prabhupada says here, the first class of the devotee is the spiritual master. He's the spiritual master. In India, Prabhupada then goes on to explain there are so many gurus and they are limited to a certain district. They do not even travel, but they declare themselves to be Jagat gurus, and such cheating gurus should not be accepted. Anyone can see how the bona fide spiritual master accepts disciples from all over the world.
It's not explicitly saying Uttama Madhyam there.
Well,
He's just saying first class, right? Was that it?
The devotees, he does say the 3 classes of devotees, which is
Oh, okay.
Nishta, Madhyam, and
Implied, yeah.
it's
Okay.
implied there. He doesn't get into Sanskrit, but
Right.
and then Prabhupada says he cannot be accepted. The other thing is, even though a person is born in a Brahmin family, he can't be accepted as a guru if he's not strict.
So can I ask you a question, Prabhu?
Yeah.
So in lieu of the fact that there may not be innumerable Uttama Adhikaris floating around, does one then, accept that it's a judicious path to take initiation from a Madhyam Adhikari, as in the situation within our Krishna consciousness movement?
If you're asking for my opinion, and it's just my opinion, and it's shared by others, and it's not everyone will agree with it, but I was initiated by Kirtanananda Swami, and Kirtanananda Swami inspired me like so much, like when I was a young brahmachari. It was just very, very, he was very charismatic. He was very strict with himself in many, in regards to his, sadhana. He was very powerful preacher, and it was, he definitely gave me so much inspiration in my Krishna consciousness. Of course, Prabhupada's books were always there, and Prabhupada's books were like the foundation. But he inspired me as an incredibly sold out disciple of the Guru, of Srila Prabhupada. But over the years, I've seen what's happened. And, I own a lot of businesses. So I look at it, and Prabhupada was a businessman. And ISKCON is something which is so unique in the annals of Vaishnava history. There is nothing like ISKCON, nothing. There's nothing to compare to it. You know what I mean? It's not like, there's little mats here and there. And even in these mats, there's one guru, Sridhar Swami had one successor, so they choose their successors, right? And if we look back, we see that Prabhupada criticized his godbrothers primarily for trying to choose a successor when Bhaktisiddhanta did not choose a successor.
That's a very good point.
Bhaktisiddhanta did not choose a successor. And then Prabhupada said, they tried to choose acharya and then they all became acharya, even though none of them were qualified to be acharya. Like these are Prabhupada's words. So Bhaktisiddhanta's movement was the precursor to this incredible worldwide ISKCON. Bhaktisiddhanta's Gaudiya Mat was the precursor of that. So if we want to compare ISKCON to anything, it's Bhaktisiddhanta's Gaudiya Mat before it broke up. And what did Bhaktisiddhanta do? Did he just tell all his disciples, okay, all of you now go initiate and just do whatever, and all of you could become guru? No, he didn't say that.
He didn't specify.
He didn't specify that.
Right, just like Bhaktivedanta didn't.
Just like Prabhupada didn't.
Yeah.
And what did Prabhupada say with Bhaktisiddhanta, which was, I always found it fascinating. Prabhupada said that what they should have done and what Bhaktisiddhanta wanted them to do was to just go on preaching through the agency of the Gaudiya, the management agency of the Gaudiya, of the GBC, and that the acharya would be what, Gaur? You remember?
I'm just reiterating here that management should go on under a GBC. Yeah,
And
you're talking about Gaudiya Mat now, or you're talking about
Bhaktisiddhanta?
Yeah.
That the acharya will become self-effulgent.
Yeah.
That the acharya would manifest himself from within the disciples and become undisputably the leader and the acharya.
Would become self-apparent.
Yeah, but they didn't wait.
Right.
They didn't wait. They were angry.
They made a mess.
They didn't wait. So, but
that's the question right there.
But my point, Mataji, is, do you see how unconventional that is?
Yes, I do, because people feel antsy. They want to come to the mission. They want to be initiated, etc., etc. Like you could argue that in ISKCON there was also this emotional panic mode, and also people still coming to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement and wanting to take initiation. So I agree with you that the acharya will become self-effulgent and self-evident. But I suppose I'm begging the question about masses of people wanting to.
Yes, and therefore to something else. So my point of showing that example of Bhaktisiddhanta was that there is no kind of cut and dry process, for an international society. There isn't. So if you try to apply the traditional guru disciple situation that you have in every little village ashram, like in ancient India or somewhere, it doesn't apply. When you have like a worldwide mission, there has to be some other process instituted that takes into account the maintenance of this colossus that's been established. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with this colossus, because Prabhupada was the one who established it. He established the GBC so that it could grow and manage this movement. Prabhupada did it. So the thing is that the system that we have in ISKCON then we have to look at that and say, okay, what did Prabhupada, did he really just leave us stranded trying to figure this out? Is that something Prabhupada is known to have done? Just to kind of figure it out yourselves, guys. Would you think that someone like Prabhupada, who was so, so careful in like in you know in
But
managing even the minutia of ISKCON. He knew every nook and cranny practically of ISKCON. Do you think that he would have left this important matter just to kind of just to his young disciples? You guys figure it out. Or did he give some clear instructions? That's the question. Did he give some clear direction? Or did he just kind of leave it for us to wing it? I feel that he did leave some clear direction, because and I've always said, if you want to start your own movement, if you want to start your own movement, go for it. And that's the honorable thing to do if you want to be the guru, and go start your own movement and have your own guru, be your own guru, and do it your way. But ISKCON is different. ISKCON is Prabhupada's way. We have Prabhupada's books. We have Prabhupada's direction in almost everything. We have Prabhupada's direction in Varnashram. We have Prabhupada's direction on management. We have Prabhupada's direction on deity worship. We have everything is directed by Prabhupada. Likewise, Prabhupada directed initiations. But it's up to us, are we going to follow it or not going to follow it? So when you try to impose a traditional kind of a guru situation on a completely unprecedented movement like ISKCON, it doesn't work. But if you want to go take initiation from a Mahabhagavat who's got his own little ashram in India, there's nothing wrong with that either. And there's nothing wrong with them. And we as Srila Prabhupada's disciples, we do Prabhupada injustice by not accepting these devotees, and not working and seeing them as our brothers or cousins or spiritual cousins. Do you know what I mean? It's like we shouldn't be alienating ourselves from the larger community of Vaishnavas.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the points that these devotees that were aspiring for initiation, when they saw that they could not associate with devotees outside of ISKCON, that has to all be within ISKCON, they got turned off.
Yeah.
They didn't want to participate. Excuse me, I'm just wondering, we have a new devotee with us tonight who has not revealed their form, and they're known as difficult to convince but willing to listen. And I'm just wondering who this mysterious devotee is. I did invite Ekanath Prabhu, who's head of the illustrious Bhaktivedanta archives that's been preserving Prabhupada's legacy for like 5 decades. And I don't know if that's Ekanath Prabhu or not, but it is someone known as difficult to convince but willing to listen.
The FBI
So
username sounds like a challenge.
yeah, no, I would like to know who this person is that's participating here, because everyone takes a turn reading. That's kind of like the way we like to do things. And I'm just wondering who you are. Could you please unmute yourself and make yourself known to us?
Want to, that's fine,
Yeah, no, I'm not twisting his arm, but I'm just asking.
So
A
if
little more. Pardon me?
If he wants to be known, he
Oh.
said, difficult, but no, not Ekanath. If it's
Okay, if
okay,
it's okay, I'll just listen. Yeah, you're fine to listen. That's fine. Yeah. Nobody's barred, but just try to, get everyone in the mood of participating. I'd like to quote here. I'd like to quote here from the Nectar of Instruction from Srila Prabhupada, verse number 5. One should mentally honor the devotee who chants the holy name of Lord Krishna. One should offer humble obeisances to the devotee who has undergone spiritual initiation, Diksha, and is engaged in worshiping the deity. And one should associate with and faithfully serve that pure devotee who's advanced in undeviated devotional service and whose heart is completely devoid of the propensity to criticize others. And in the very last paragraph, Srila Prabhupada says, in this verse, Srila Rupa Goswami advises the devotee to be intelligent enough to distinguish between the Kanishta Adhikari, Madhyama Adhikari, and Uttama Adhikari. The devotee should also know his own position and should not try to initiate a devotee. The devotee should also know his own position and should not try to imitate a devotee situated on a higher platform. There was a recent outcry about this on Facebook, where one godbrother was having his Vyasa Puja, and he had this gigantic Vyasasan in the center of the stage with Prabhupada pushed off to the side on one godbrother called it a baby Vyasasan.
Actually, the deity's Vyasan was also smaller.
Right. Although I noticed a little bit taller, but very skinny compared to the massive one. And I mentioned this to a GBC godbrother, and he contacted the GBC and he contacted ISKCON Resolve, saying that the disciples of this guru think that they think that their guru is better than Prabhupada. That's what one GBC godbrother said.
You realize what a waste of energy this whole guru thing is? What a waste of time and energy and our mental, efforts. What a waste.
Well, I mean, especially when they're ostentatious like that. If someone's taking a low profile and is being genuinely humble, that's not the same thing, is it?
You have to, cutting it some slack, you would have to say that a neophyte devotee may not have the ability to actually assess the position, like you're reading in the Nectar of Instruction. If you're neophyte, which can be, one of the big stumbling blocks is that you actually can't discern the position because you haven't come to a realization of those distinctions yet. And yet you are a neophyte who wants to take initiation. So it's a bit of a kind of chicken and an egg situation, really. I mean, you're fortunate if you have one of the greatest acharyas ever, like we were fortunate. It just was so apparent, the status and position of Prabhupada, because it was just overwhelming.
But that's what, okay, so you just kind of defeated your own point. Devotees who were on the most neophyte position clearly saw Prabhupada's preeminence. Krishna Chandra Prabhu, were you
yes? Oh yes, Prabhu. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be like impatient. I'm happy to hear your entire.
I'm just gonna finish this paragraph here. I'm almost done.
Whenever it's appropriate for me to talk, I'll wait. Yeah.
Okay, I'll just finish this. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has given some practical hints to the effect that an Uttama Adhikari Vaishnav can be recognized by his ability to convert many fallen souls to Vaishnavism. Of course, one may argue there's some gurus in ISKCON. They've got 20, 30, 40,000, 50,000 disciples. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
One should not become a spiritual master, Prabhupada says, unless he has attained the platform of Uttam Adhikari.
There it is.
Yeah, a neophyte Vaishnav or a Vaishnav situated on the intermediate platform can also accept disciples. Such disciples must be on the same platform. And it should be understood that they cannot advance very well toward the ultimate goal of life under his insufficient guidance. Therefore, a disciple should be careful to accept an Uttam Adhikari as a spiritual master.
Nailed it.
Amen.
Amen. That's the purport. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Krishna Chandra Prabhu, you were going to say something?
Oh, thank you, Jiva Mukta Prabhu. I just wanted to say, this may be a response to something said about 5-10 minutes ago about taking a Uttamadhikari or Mahabhagavat as your guru when you have that choice in not being part of the organization. I feel like I've been in that situation myself.
Uh-huh.
Because I believe my guru is definitely Mahabhagavat. I spent many, many months traveling over the years, months worth of time over the years. And I never doubted that he was Mahabhagavat. But the challenge is when you're not with an Acharya in ISKCON. Like in my case, I don't have more than a dozen god siblings in the United States. I may have a few in Mexico. I have quite a few in like Italy or Austria, and the rest are all in India. So in one respect, it can get physically lonely. I feel like I don't fit into ISKCON. I feel like I do not fit into other sanghas that are non-ISKCON, but nonetheless popular, say in my area. But overall, I have no regrets, absolutely no regrets. It's just, it's a challenge when you don't have that organizational support, when you don't have that satsanga on a regular basis, people you can actually relate to. It's a big challenge. And
that's what ISKCON, and that's what really ISKCON is about. And that's when we talk about the institution, really, what's it for? It's to give us association.
Right.
Primarily, that's how I see it. It's to give us association. But even so, even though ISKCON is like, I don't know how many followers there might be, but like how many really close friends, devotees, associates do you have? Not that many. Like most of us could, even though you might have 5,000 followers on Facebook, how many really are your friends that you can confide? Like if you Gaura, you could read in the Upadeshamrita, revealing one's mind in confidence, all these things. Like, who is it that you could go to? There's not, if you have any, it would be very, very few.
It's true.
So even in an institution like ISKCON, although it's one of its primary objectives is to provide association for devotees, having those ones that are really close to your heart, very, very few. We offer respects to each other, and sometimes you have so much like veneration for certain devotees, but those that you can really go to and feel like, to open up your heart, it's very, very few.
Yeah, so I would really like for you, I would like for all of you to listen to this Nama Rasa interviewing Deva Madhava Prabhu at this very progressive temple in Ypsilanti, Michigan, because Deva Madhava is speaking in this way.
Progressive is a swear word for me, Prabhu. It's like a swear word.
Can you say a little more about that?
Well, I mean, don't you see what the progressives are doing from the material standpoint?
Well, I mean, it's relative. It's a relative term.
Let me just caution. Do not be seduced by numbers. Let us remember that Prabhupada was not interested in numbers. Prabhupada wanted quality over quantity. So if in the name of progressiveness, you are, like you're referred to hermeneutics, if you are taking Prabhupada's books and twisting the very obvious and clear lessons that Prabhupada is providing us, then what is the use of that type of expansion and that type of popularity? Don't you remember the popularity of Rajneesh?
Oh yeah.
Rajneesh was way more popular than ISKCON. Way more popular.
Because they promoted a lot of sex.
Yeah. And there's still movements, the TM, like the transcendental meditation, is way bigger than ISKCON. And very much more organized, and in many ways, entrenched in society.
I get your point, and it's well taken. What I meant by progressive is that he was saying, David Marable was saying, we put people first
Mhm.
before the institution, because many of us have experience where the emphasis is on, do or die. You've got to get your, make your money collection. And it doesn't matter if the devotee's having problems or not. He was saying that their motto at the Ypsilanti temple is chant and be honest. In other words, if you're having some issues, you need to be able to open your heart. Exactly the point you're making. And that's what I mean by progressive. Because for many years in ISKCON, many devotees, they just go on struggling, but they don't necessarily feel they've got a close friend that they can open their heart to, that's going to maintain any level of confidentiality with them. That's one example.
But progressive in the sense that what? Applying Rupa Goswami's instructions is progressive?
Yeah, I shouldn't be, but
it shouldn't be. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's the Govinda Maharaj's mark locally, I'll have to say. And I've been going there for the last year and a half. And the whole mood of that place is exceptionally personal. Like when Maharaj has someone come into the temple, he is personal with everyone, the children. You're welcomed, you're addressed by your name, you're given so much respect, and the loving exchanges in that temple are utterly extraordinary. They really are.
You're not told that unless you get 2 injections, you're not welcome, right?
Mhm.
They're not stepping on landmines all the time. The first instruction, it appears to be, that Govinda Maharaj emphasized is this loving warmth. And I can honestly say that I have experienced that to the nth degree in this ashram.
Nanda Patni, I'm not sure that Shikarani, Tom Prabhu, welcome back. I'm not sure if Shuddha Sindhu, I'm not sure if any of them know who Govinda Swami is.
So it's a branch on Lord Chaitanya's tree. It's a branch coming from the Gaudiya Math, one of Srila Prabhupada's close godbrothers, who was called Srila Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj. And Govinda Maharaj was the direct disciple of Srila Sridhar Maharaj. So this is the lineage of this branch on the tree coming from the Gaudiya Math, and it's called the Caitanya Saraswat Math. And they're in Navadvip and various places in England and all, kind of all over the place. But the point I'm making is that they really appear to have mastered this wonderful mood of trust and warmth and reciprocity between each other. And they have all the time in the day for it, which is just, it's a wonderful thing, I'll have to say. Absolutely wonderful. Anyway.
And also I wanted to mention regarding Krishna Chandra Prabhu, when he's talking about his spiritual mastery, he's talking about Bhakti Vaibhav Puri Maharaj, who is one of Srila Prabhupada's godbrothers, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, because Shuddha Sindhu, Sikarani and Bhakta Tom may not know who you're talking about.
Oh, true, yes.
Yeah, so we always have to consider the younger devotees to give them a frame of reference.
I appreciate that, Prabhu. I'll remember to be more considerate,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So, okay. Another comment I'd just like to make, wow, we only got into like the second paragraph or third paragraph tonight, is that I found it interesting that the Hari Bhakti Vilas, which I understand to be that both Sanatan Goswami and Gopal Bhatta Goswami worked on that. Although I think one of them didn't want to take any credit. I think it was Gopal Bhatta Goswami didn't want to be credited. It's got all the rules and regulations, right, of deity worship, of Vaishnav, Sadachar. It was saying that of the two, if you're going to accept a guru who's coming from a Sudra family or accept one coming from a Brahmin family, better to choose one from the Brahmin. But then there's a footnote that this is only a social convention. I'm thinking, why even mention it if it's not really important? You know, if it's just a social convention. I'm just throwing that out there. Do you have a comment on that? Anybody?
I guess they're expressing that this was done as social convention, but it's not actually the measure by which we should be assessing the situation.
In other words, they're addressing the misconception.
Yeah.
And they're even recommending it, but it's only for people who are socially conscious.
And there's nothing wrong with being socially conscious. Like there's it's important. It's something that helps us in our Krishna consciousness, that ultimately one rises above, but it's still important. You know, it's important for okay, take for example my businesses and my employees. Well, it's important for my employees to show regard for the person who signs their checks and the person who gives them a job and the person who's ultimately guiding, you know, all of these enterprises. It's important for, you know, this is one of the problems in our society today. It's important for our administrators and politicians to listen to qualified Brahmins. It's important, and without it, you can see what happens. It's
chaos.
It's absolute chaos.
Yeah.
So it's important for every division, social, you know, person in every social division to show regard and proper behavior with respect to the other members of society. That's very important. It's not that we, you know, on the basis that we're not these bodies, and you know, this is like the ABCs of Krishna consciousness. Like this is like that Prabhupada teaches us in the Bhagavad Gita. You know, Arjuna is a kshatriya, but you know, he wanted to give up that duty, that social duty, completely mundane, right? He wanted to just become a Brahmin, just give it up.
Right.
And Krishna chastised them from every angle. He chastised them from the spiritual position, because he says, you know, don't be attached. You have a right to perform your duty, but not to the fruit. So he chastised them by saying, you're a kshatriya. People are going to make fun of you. They're going to
you're mourning for what is not worthy of grief. Those who are wise lament neither for the living nor the dead.
He also chastised them from completely material, mundane standpoint. Krishna said, you are a kshatriya. You are a brave, strong, powerful man. All material designations, by the way.
Right.
Right? And if you give this up, they're going to laugh at you. They're going to think you're running away because you're fearful. And for someone like you, who has gained so much prestige as a powerful male kshatriya, it's worse than death.
Dishonor is worse than death.
A completely mundane, material, mayic argument, if there's a word such as maya, right? Completely based on maya. And Krishna offered that as a reason why Arjuna should reconsider. Look, you're a kshatriya. You're powerful. You've got fame as a great warrior. What are people going to think of you? He didn't say, oh, I'm driving your chariot. I'm the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You are my friend. You're going to be running away. People are going to think, is he really that stupid that he's got Krishna in his chariot and he's afraid? that was one of the arguments ultimately. But Krishna didn't stop there, right? He gave every argument from every standpoint, from every angle of vision. And so why did Krishna give that argument? Because there's relevance. There's relevance to those social constraints.
Why don't we read one paragraph each, since it's coming towards the end here?
Sorry about that.
Thank you, Jivan Mukta. Thank you. That was great. Those are great points. So yeah, why don't you read the next, the short little one, and the next one after Krishna Chandra, Lord Chaitanya.
Lord Chaitanya therefore requested Ramananda Roy to go on teaching him without hesitation, not considering Lord Chaitanya's position as a sannyasi. Thus, Lord Chaitanya urged him to continue speaking on the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. Because you are asking me to speak of the pastimes of Radha and Krishna, Ramananda Roy humbly submitted, I will obey your order. I will speak in whatever way you like. Thus, Ramananda Roy humbly submitted himself as a puppet before Lord Chaitanya, the puppet master. He only wanted to dance according to the will of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He compared his tongue to a stringed instrument, saying, you are the player of that instrument. Thus, as Lord Chaitanya would play, Ramananda Roy would vibrate the sound.
Jivan Mukta Prabhu.
Yeah, is that it? Where do I start?
He said that.
He said that Lord Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, the source of all incarnations and the cause of all causes. There are innumerable Vaikuntha planets, innumerable incarnations, expansions of the Supreme Lord, and innumerable universes also. And all of these existences, and of all these existences, the Supreme Lord Krishna is the only source. His transcendental body is composed of eternity, bliss, and knowledge, and he is known as the son of Maharaj Nanda and the inhabitant of Goloka Vrindavan. He is full with 6 opulences, all wealth, strength, fame, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation. In the Brahma Samhita 5.1, it is confirmed that Krishna is the Supreme Lord, the Lord of all lords, and his transcendental body is Satchit Ananda. No one is the source of Krishna, but Krishna is the source of everyone. He is the supreme cause of all causes and the resident of Vrindavan. He is also very attractive, just like Cupid. One can worship him by Kama Gayatri Mantra.
Tom Prabhu, would you like to read the next paragraph?
In Brahma Samhita, the transcendental land of Vrindavan is described as being always spiritual. That spiritual land is populated by goddesses of fortune who are known as gopis. These are all beloved of Krishna, and Krishna is the only lover of all those gopis. The trees of that land are kalpa vriksha, wish-fulfilling trees, and one can have anything he wants from them. The land is made of touchstone and the water of nectar. In that land, all speech is song and all walking is dancing, and one's constant companion is the flute. Everything is self-luminous, just like the sun in this material world. The human form of life is meant for understanding this transcendental land of Vrindavan, and one who is fortunate should cultivate knowledge of Vrindavan and its residents. In that supreme abode are Surabhi cows that overflood the land with milk. Since not even a moment there is misused, there is no past, present, or future. An expansion of this Vrindavan, which is the supreme abode of Krishna, is also present on this earth, and superior devotees worship it as the supreme abode. However, no one can appreciate Vrindavan without being highly elevated in spiritual knowledge, Krishna consciousness. According to ordinary experience, Vrindavan appears to be just like an ordinary village, but in the eyes of a highly elevated devotee, it is as good as the original Vrindavan. A great saintly acharya has sung, "When will my mind be cleared of all contamination, so I will be able to see Vrindavan as it is? And when will I be able to understand the literatures left by the Goswamis, so that I will be able to know of the transcendental pastimes of Radha and Krishna?"
Shuddha Sindhu?
The loving affairs between Krishna and gopis in Vrindavan are also transcendental. They appear as ordinary lusty affairs of this material world, but there is a gulf of difference. In the material world, there may be the temporary awakening of lust, but it disappears after so-called satisfaction. In the spiritual world, the love between the gopis and Krishna is constantly increasing. There's a difference between transcendental love and material love. The last, or so-called love, arising out of this body is as temporary as the body itself, but the love arising from the eternal soul in the spiritual world is on the spiritual platform, and that love is also eternal. Therefore, Krishna is addressed as the evergreen Cupid. Lord Krishna is worshipped by the Gayatri mantra, and the specific mantra by which he is worshipped is called Kama Gayatri. Vedic literatures explain that the sound vibration which can elevate one from mental concoction is called Gayatri. The Kama Gayatri mantra is composed of 24 half syllables. Thus, Krim Kama Devaya Vidmahe, Puspa Banaya Dhimahi, Tano Nagaha Prakodaya. This Kama Gayatri is received from the spiritual master when the disciple is at once in chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. In other words, this Kama Gayatri mantra and samskara, or reformation of a perfect Brahmana, are offered by the spiritual master when he sees that his disciple is at once in spiritual knowledge. Even then, the Kama Gayatri is not altered under certain circumstances. In any case, the chanting of Hare Krishna is sufficient to elevate one to the highest spiritual platform.
And Sikarani, would you like to finish the evening?
In Brahma Samhita, a nice description of the flute of Krishna is given. When Krishna began to play on his flute, the sound vibration entered into the ear of Brahma as the Vedic mantra, Om. This Om is composed of three letters, A-U-M, and it describes our relationship with the Supreme Lord. Our activities by which we can achieve the highest perfection of love and the actual position of love on the spiritual platform. When the sound vibration of Krishna's flute is expressed through the mouth of Brahma, it becomes Gayatri. Thus, by being influenced by the sound vibration of Krishna's flute, Brahma, the supreme creature and the first living entity of this material world, was initiated as a Brahmana. That Brahma was initiated as a Brahmana by the flute of Krishna is confirmed by Srila Jiva Goswami. When Brahma was enlightened by the Gayatri mantra through Krishna's flute, he attained all Vedic knowledge. Acknowledging the benediction offered to him by Krishna, he became the original spiritual master of all living entities. The word Klim added to the Gayatri mantra is explained in Brahma Samhita as the transcendental seed of love of Godhead, or the seed of the Kama Gayatri. The object is Krishna, who is the evergreen Cupid, and by utterance of Klim mantra, Krishna is worshipped. It is also stated in the Gopala Tapani Upanishad that when Krishna is spoken of as Cupid, one should not think of him as the Cupid of this material world. As already explained, Vrindavana is the spiritual abode of Krishna, and the word Cupid is also spiritual and transcendental. One should not take the material Cupid and Krishna to be on the same level. The material Cupid represents the attraction of the external flesh and body, but the spiritual Cupid is the attraction by which the super soul attracts the individual soul. Actually, lust and sex are there in spiritual life, but when the spirit soul is embodied in material elements, that spiritual urge is expressed through the material body and is therefore powerfully reflected. When one actually becomes conversant in the science of Krishna consciousness, he can understand that this material desire for sex is abominable, whereas spiritual sex is desirable. Spiritual sex is of two kinds, one in accordance with the constitutional position of the self, and other in the accordance with the object. When one understands the truth about this life but is not completely cleansed of material contamination, he is not factually situated in the transcendental abode. Vrindavana, although he may understand spiritual life, when, however, one becomes free from the sex urges of this material body, he can actually attain the supreme abode of Vrindavana. When one is so situated, he can utter the Kama Gayatri and Kama Bija mantra.
Any comments from anyone? Siddhanta Prabhu has been really busy. He said he'll come tomorrow for Bhagavad Gita. So it'll be great to, not tomorrow, but rather Friday.
Okay.
Yeah. And I invited Ekanath Prabhu tonight, but sometimes people tell me they have difficulty getting in. Shikarani, you had no problem joining tonight?
No.
Okay. Great to see you again, Tom.
Yeah, same here.
Tom has a great appreciation for the Bible and Lord Jesus Christ, which Prabhupada said, one cannot worship Lord Krishna without worshiping his son, Lord Jesus, and one cannot love Lord Jesus without loving his father, Lord Krishna. And I'm not sure if it's in the Bhagavad Gita, but Prabhupada said that in the Bhagavad Gita, you'll find everything that is found in other scriptures, but you'll find within the Bhagavad Gita that which is not found in other scriptures as well. So, I mean, we just finished reading a fantastic description of the spiritual world, the associates of the Supreme Lord. I mean, where in the Bible, the Quran, or the Torah are you going to find out about gopis?
Exactly.
Where are you going to find about Sarabi cows that give unlimited quantities of milk? This is unique to Vedic scripture. Nandapatni, you have something to say on this? No?
No, that's true. You know, that's well articulated. I mean, for a lot of us, you know, raised Christian, when we stumbled on the Vedic literature, it actually began to answer so many of those very detailed questions, which of course didn't mitigate anything that one was raised in with the Bible. You know, I went to Roman Catholic boarding school and went to Mass every day. And I love the Mass. I love all the churches and cathedrals, medieval churches. I always go to them when I'm back in Europe. Yeah, so anyway.
I went to my Catholic priest when I was 7, 8 years old. And I said, Father, why do bad things happen to good people? Because I was seeing, you know, the Vietnam War was going on and children watching their grandparents getting shot by US Marines in Vietnamese villages. And I couldn't understand, like, why was this going on? Why was God allowing this? And the father said to me, well, son, it's a mystery. And I thought, well, that's not really an answer. Why don't you say you don't know? And so I implored him further, and he said, well, God is testing those people in that way. But then I thought, but why is he testing some people to watch see their grandparents getting shot with machine guns while someone else is being born in a Rockefeller family, head of big pharma? Why has one got a silver spoon in their mouth and someone else watching their family members get shot? But it was only once I mean, that is touched on, right? An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. So you shall sow, as you shall sow, you shall reap. But it's not very clear, is it? I mean, we don't really, I mean, I didn't have that understanding.
It's not as detailed.
Right.
In that regard, if you go through the Bhagavad Gita and you go through Karma Yoga, Sankhya Yoga, you know, all these different analyses that Krishna kind of takes Arjuna through, it's very, very detailed. And it answers a gazillion questions.
Prabhupada said, sorry, go ahead.
No, they all kind of end up getting answered.
Right. Prabhupada said the scriptures like Bible, Quran, Torah are like pocket dictionaries. You know, they serve a certain purpose to a certain level. But some people love encyclopedia dictionaries. They want to study the etymological roots and you know, really understand, where is a word coming from? Is it coming from the Latin? Is it coming from the Greek? What's the original, you know, use of this word? So not everyone's going to be interested in an encyclopedia dictionary. Some just prefer a pocket dictionary, and Okay, that's their choice. But for those who are thirsty, then Srila Prabhupada's books are giving us a great, great wealth of spiritual wisdom, not to be found in any tradition, any other tradition. Anyway, thank you very much for coming, and hope you can all make it back for Friday's session. Any comment or question from you, Shuddha Sindhu, Tom Prabhu, Shikarani, our younger brothers and sisters?
So no, that means we should actually seek for Uttama Adhikari spiritual master in order to advance more, because it's the Uttama Adhikari spiritual master that can help us to advance. Is my understanding correct?
I'm not. You're saying we should continue seeking for an Uttama Adhikari?
No, I mean, yeah, we only have one initiation spiritual master, and
Right.
that spiritual master has to be Uttama Adhikari, so that because he is the Uttama Adhikari, then only he is able to bring us to go more at once compared to other Adhikari. Is that correct?
And if we don't have an Uttama Adhikari as a guru, then we should continue seeking. The answer that some would give is, well, that Uttama Adhikari is on the pages of Prabhupada's books, and we can access him and take shelter of him there. Others will say, well, no, there's, if you don't find an Uttama Adhikari in ISKCON, there's also people outside of ISKCON that are Uttama Adhikaris. You want to say something on this, Nandapatni?
Well, it was interesting, what you read in the Nectar of Instruction, where Prabhupada then says, yes, but you can take initiation from a Madhyama Adhikari, but you will only rise to the level that he or she is on. And the ultimate goal actually is Uttama Adhikari understanding. That's where you perfect your Krishna consciousness. So you can take initiation from the Madhyama Adhikari, but as you continue to read the scriptures, you actually do get the Vani, the association of the Uttama Adhikaris, by virtue of reading Prabhupada's books and the books of the Goswamis, and the completely self-realized souls. Yeah, sadhu sangha. You have to keep up your sadhu sangha.
If there was a Uttama Adhikari living in Jagannath Puri or Mayapur or whatever, but if you've got a family, for example, as you do, it may not be so easy for you to just travel around the world chasing after the Mahabhagavad or Uttama Adhikari that you want. So we have Prabhupada's books. Krishna Chandra, you have anything else to say?
Thank you for the opportunity, Prabhu. At the moment, I don't feel confident enough to make
Okay.
this statement.
Shikarani, is everything okay? Tom?
And okay, one more question, Gaura.
Yes.
Just now you mentioned about guru-disciple course, and there are some devotees that drop out of the course. Why? Why?
They drop out of the what?
Guru-disciple course. In the guru-disciple course. Implemented
the Guru
by
disciple course. Okay, yes. Yeah.
And then you were
Why did
mentioning
they drop out?
I think it's quite a new course, right? It's quite a new course.
They've implemented it in ISKCON for at least a couple of years, maybe 3-4 years.
Yeah, that means it's quite new. So all the new devotees who want to take initiation, they have to undergo the course. I took that course also, but I forgot everything that I've learned.
Gosh.
And then you were mentioning that some devotees they drop out. Why? What are the reasons?
Well, if you listen to the recording of Deva Madhava with Namrasa, he goes into more detail. He said he has 14 devotees that were interested to take initiation, but when they read the course, which he described as signing a contract with ISKCON, that if I become an ISKCON devotee, I promise not to take association from anyone outside of ISKCON, then they thought, well, this is kind of like I mean, it didn't seem so transcendental to them. It didn't seem so spiritual to them. That was one reason that was given. That they're trying to control the natural function of the heart. Nandapatni, you want to say something?
Well, yeah, I don't, I mean, I'm sure, if I had to take a course when I was a young devotee, I would never have been in the movement.
Exactly.
But I mean, yeah, I mean, that all becomes too rigidified. It's not really the spirit of how the whole thing works. And also the interview I sent you with Urmila, where she talks about having a more a better understanding of decentralization. You can't just rubber stamp everything. Spiritual understanding doesn't work like that. I mean, yes.
You know what that means? Should a Sindhu rubber stamp? Should a Sindhu? Hello? Looks like your screen is
it froze, maybe. Yeah. Anyway, yeah.
I'm not sure if she's familiar with that.
Oh, I think it's back. Are you back?
Yeah. Now, what I understand is the course is actually to make you understand better between a guru and disciple before you decide to take initiation or not. But I think I didn't sign any contract that you like what you said within ISKCON. I think
signing contract, it means they're saying you have to follow this way because this is what the GBC has decided. If you found a guru that is not acknowledged by them to be an official ISKCON guru, then you wouldn't be considered to be a part of ISKCON. Your Guru Maharaj, he's been given the blessings of the GBC. He's recognized as an initiating guru. But if someone else in ISKCON thinks that Nandapatni should be your guru because Nandapatni is not officially recognized by the GBC, then they may say, oh no, but Nandapatni, we have not given our blessings to her. She cannot initiate, even though she may be qualified in so many ways. Do you see? Do you see? You understand? But this has been an issue in ISKCON for a long time, that people want to feel that they should be able to choose whoever they want. But the institution is saying, no, you cannot choose the person you want unless we say so. Do you understand or no?
Yeah, I understand. But I follow my guru instruction, not really ISKCON.
Okay.
Based on guru, I follow the guru's instruction, not ISKCON. I don't follow the institution, it's the ISKCON. But I remember I read somewhere Sri Prabhupada said that don't leave ISKCON, something like that, right?
Yes. Yeah. He gave an instruction like that. But also one needs to understand what is ISKCON. He said to Yamuna Devi, because some devotees were criticizing Yamuna Devi for having a ladies' ashram and telling her she was not an ISKCON. And Prabhupada said to her, ISKCON is wherever two people chant the Hare Krishna mantra and they are compatible. He said, you could be 200, and if you're not compatible, that's not ISKCON. So that's quite it's an interesting topic, isn't it, Nandapatni?
Yeah, absolutely. Because, there are so many things that are said by the spiritual master, and you have to think about them deeply and, take them in their context. I mean, on another level, Prabhupada wanted all his disciples to spread Krishna consciousness and become guru and write books and spread this mission of Caitanya Mahaprabhu. So it's not that, every one of Prabhupada's disciples will necessarily have an ISKCON building and raise an ISKCON flag and all the rest of it. I mean, people go all over the world and start projects and programs in Prabhupada's name. And if they're following Prabhupada's instructions, that is, and they're sort of simpatico with the mission and the GBC to an extent, I mean, that's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission. You know, as long as you're not making stuff up, you're doing what Prabhupada wanted you to do, which is to spread the holy name, to give people prasadam, to help them understand what an Archa Vigraha is. You know, I mean, these are all the tenets of the Shastras, and, you know, it doesn't have to be a great big institutionalized thing. You can't lose the spirit of it, you know, but with an institution just trying to sort of rigidify the whole thing to such an extent, you know. Anyway.
I hope that helps you, Shuddha Sindhu.
Yeah.
I mean, I know of a devotee right now, I won't say where, but the family of devotees, they got millions of rupees donated to print Prabhupada's books. They were doing fabulous preaching. But the godbrothers of this devotee came in, demoted him, took over his temple, took over his service, and he's like traumatized by it because of Nandapatni, what you were describing, this centralized management scheme where, you know, as opposed to the idea of micro churches, or, you know, everyone needs to feel encouraged to serve Srila Prabhupada according to their enthusiasm. But the irony is that some of our own devotees can stifle our devotees.
Yeah, if you look at the history of religion, Hridayananda is really good on this subject. When people try to institutionalize it and politicize it to such an extent, they actually kill the thing. And those were the words of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. This is super emphasized in Urmila's podcast with Chaitanya Charan. I really advise you to look at that. It's brilliant, actually. And, you know, the church as such, if you take the Christian religion, it didn't spread to every town and village because of central authority in the end. When there was central authority from Rome, in the end, you got bloody wars where people tried to overthrow that, you know, level of institutionalization and authority on top of them. It spread organically through every town and village all over the world. And I think that that can be true of Krishna consciousness, that it can spread organically as long as you're not perverting the purity of transmission of the scriptures and Prabhupada's, you know, gift to us, then it can spread everywhere. If you try and lock it in to this big controlled institution, it doesn't, I mean, Prabhupada didn't stay locked in to the Gaudiya Math, you know, he went on his own and carried the torch.
Yes, I mean, and that's Shuddha Sindhu's situation too. She came on Janmashtami to serve the devotees at her temple, and she wanted to actually serve the elders there specifically. And the pujari was saying, you can't come in here unless you take a double mRNA injection. And she was completely, I don't know, I can't speak for her too much, but I mean, she was obviously disappointed. You want to come and see the Lord, and someone is telling you have to have a bunch of chemicals shot into. I mean, so I'm saying, so to comfort her, I said, well, you can serve Krishna from your home. You know, don't depend upon pujaris telling you you're not welcome unless you take the drugs that we tell you that you have to take.
You
They
definitely
don't
have to be unstoppable. You have to be unstoppable in the face of nonsense, in the face of politics, in the face of wolves in sheep's clothing. You know, it's religious institutions are not exempt from nonsense with a capital N. You know, this is the one thing that people get so shocked about in religious institutions, that, you know, there's
organized
corruption.
religion.
Yeah, in any religion, there's
organized religion. I think it's not acceptable. Organized religion.
Yeah, but you still.
Yeah, he asked me to get out. Actually, you have to get out now.
Yeah, you find obstacles. You will always find obstacles that come up, you know, in terms of your Krishna consciousness, whether it's another personality or some kind of economic thing or whatever. Those things they'll be there. They'll be there, but you can't let them stop your progress. I guess that's all I'll say on that.
Yes, I'm thinking of that verse, Savai Pungsha Paro Dharmo. What is it?
Savai Pumsa.
Paro Dharmo. Yato Bhaktir Adho Jay. Ahaituki Apati.
Yatma supersedity.
That real bhakti can never be interrupted. If you have real bhakti, no pujari, no temple president is going to stand in your way of your service to Sri Krishna and Srila Prabhupada. I mean, it's a little bewildering because we tend to think, oh, if you're the head pujari, you're the temple president, then you must have the topmost understanding of Krishna consciousness. No, but as Mother Nanda Patni has said, they can also speak some crazy nonsense. So when they do that, you have to reject them. I mean, not saying you have to reject everything about them, but if they're saying you have to inject some drugs in your body to see Krishna, then you know they're cuckoo. They've gone a little bit.
And then sometimes I feel there's a double standard because there are only a few Chinese in the temple, very rare Chinese, very few Chinese devotees, and most of them are Indians. So sometimes we felt there's a double standard. For example, you know, I don't like to wear mask, but just to pay obeisance to the deity and Srila Prabhupada Murti, then I just put the mask, something like that. And then he told me off, you put your mask properly. But the brahmachari Indian who is serving the altar, his mask is way down like that, but he was okay to put the mask like that. But me, I'm not okay. So sometimes I feel there's a double standard from that. That no special kind of pujari, special kind of pujari.
That's where that verse, one should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, offering all respects to others, not expecting any in return. In such a state of mind, one can constantly chant the holy name of the Lord, being more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige. Bhaktivinoda Thakur said we need to wear this verse around our neck because we will encounter devotees that are not acting very devotional. Nanda Patni, any final words from you?
No, I'm going to have to go, but I wanted to ask you if you remembered this chant. I heard it the other day and it brought back so many memories. It's Hey Govinda, Hey Gopal, Hey Shava Madhava,
Dina Dayal Prabhu, Dina Dayal, Dina Dayal Prabhu, Dina Dayal.
Do you remember we used to sing that in the kirtans?
Yeah, there's a second part to it too. Kesha, how does it go? Achyuta Keshava, Shridhara Madhava, Gopala Govinda Gopala Hari. That's the second part of it.
That's what I hadn't heard it in years.
Yeah, I figured out a chord progression for it. I'll see if I can revive it.
Good. Well, I'm going to have to run for this.
Me too. Vanchakalpa Trubhis Cha Kripa Sindhubhya Cha Pitamang Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Prabhupada Ki Jai Nitai Gaur Premanandi Hari Bol. See you all on Friday, Krishna willing.
Until then.
Hari Bol.